phone number again. Interesting.
This declaration, does this need to be read tonight, or is that just for our benefit?
Is that the state of emergency?
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't need to be read. Just for your benefit.
Oh, he's here.
There he is.
Good evening.
Go.
Good evening, good evening, good evening. Councilman Scriven, tonight, these mics are not working. Only the TV is picking up your voice.
Okay, so I have to enunciate,
and
huh?
speak really
Well,
loud.
that means the whole folks I have to enunciate. Good evening, everybody.
Talking to you, Levi.
Yeah. Oh, coming from.
Thanks, Mr. Duke, I appreciate it.
I'm sorry.
Do it.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Good evening, welcome to Thursday, March 26th, 2020, regular meeting of the Xenia City Council. I'm calling the meeting to order in absence of Pastor Von Holloway from the Emmanuel Baptist Church. I'll be saying the invocation for tonight, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance by Councilwoman Rebecca Dean. Could we all rise, please? Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for watching over your community. Thank you for watching over your people. Tonight we ask for wisdom and guidance. Our country, our global situation is frightening. We ask for your calmness, that you'll give us wisdom to act appropriately. Help us to show love, kindness, and courtesy to those in need, and put away feelings of greed and hate. Let's just come together as your people, Lord. We lift up our leaders at this time, both national and state and local, that everyone can make the right decision for what's best for our community and whole. Pray for the elderly, keep them safe, and those with other medical conditions. Give us wisdom tonight in our brief meeting, and we lift you up. In your son's name we pray, amen.
Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, Councilwoman Dean. I'd like to ask for a roll call, please.
Vice President Wallace. Councilman Scrivens.
Here.
Councilwoman Dean.
Here.
Councilman Branham.
Here.
Councilman Dean.
Here.
Mayor Mays.
Here.
President Smith.
Here. Normally we go to approval of minutes, but I'm going to go ahead and turn this meeting over right away to our city manager, who's going to speak on the conditions of our meeting tonight and the purpose of why we're still having our meeting. City manager.
Thank you, Mr. Council President. A couple things to keep in mind for our viewing public. We are making changes to tonight's meeting pursuant to orders that have been issued by the Director of the Ohio Department of Health, as well as in conjunction with legislation that has just recently been passed for the state of Ohio. So, of course, we are under a general order of a stay-at-home scenario where we have been restricted outside of essential work to be at home. Part of that order also includes a restriction of not gathering in groups of more than 10 people, which obviously for a typical council meeting with the 7 council members, staff present, and the general public, we would be in violation of that order. So we're taking steps this evening to be able to continue the city's business, the people's business, while at the same time seeking to make sure that we're in compliance with both with physical distancing as well as with the number that we have congregated. In addition, the state of Ohio has passed some legislation that allows for some temporary loosening of restrictions relative to public meetings and open meetings. Typically, meetings like the Xenia City Council would not be allowed to happen digitally with members participating digitally and so forth. But with legislation that was emergency legislation that was just passed, there's some loosening of those restrictions, and so we are able to conduct the meeting via a closed door scenario where we are broadcasting electronically and members of council can participate electronically. So that is why you see the scenario that in the setup that we have this evening, we're working to be compliant with the Director of the Department of Health's orders, as well as leveraging some of the legislative mechanisms that have been made available to us.
All right, thank you very much. First order of business is approval of minutes from our March 12th, 2020 regular meeting. Do I have a motion to entertain the minutes, please?
Motion approved, sir.
We have a motion by Councilman Scrivens and a second, please.
I'll second that.
Second by Councilman Dean. Any comments or corrections to the minutes as written? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Councilman Scrivens?
Aye.
Councilwoman Dean?
Aye.
Councilman Brown?
Aye.
Councilman Dean?
Aye.
Mayor Mays?
Aye.
President Smith?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you very much. We have no special presentations for tonight. And audience comments, citizens are still always welcome at any time to email us as council members. Our emails are on the city website, as well as our city clerk, Michelle Johnson. Next is old business. First item is resolution 2020-F, a second reading establishing street lighting district number 5 within the Sterling Green Crossing Phase 4 subdivision and declaring the necessity of improving city streets and public ways within street lighting district number 5 by the lighting thereof for the years 2021 through 2022. This was introduced by Vice President Wallace.
Mr. President, in the absence of Vice President Wallace, I'd like to move approval.
Thank you very much. Move for passage by Councilman Scrivens. And do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by the mayor. Do we have Vice President Wallace?
I don't think we have them available, and I was gonna interject here in a moment for a point of order that council may want to consider if we've had technical problems excusing him, if we're not able to connect him. But to this point, I don't believe we have him available.
Okay, we'll go through this motion and then we'll ask. Okay, do we have anyone else wants to comment on this resolution? All right, seeing none, roll call on the resolution, please.
Councilman Scrivens?
Aye.
Councilwoman Dean?
Aye.
Councilman Brown?
Aye.
Councilman Dean?
Aye.
Mayor Mays?
Aye.
President Smith?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you very much. Now, at this time, I'll entertain a motion to excuse Vice President Wallace.
I'll make it. Motion?
We have a motion on the floor to excuse Vice President Wallace by the mayor. Do we have a second?
I'll second
A second by Councilman Brandon. Do we have any discussion on that?
Yes, he will.
No, he's not. He's actually out of town.
I will, if I may, Mr. President, we were working to connect him digitally or with audio, but we may not have been able to connect all those lines here for this evening. So it was his intent to try to participate. We just haven't been able to facilitate that.
All right, thank you very much. Roll call for exclusion.
Councilman Scrivens?
Aye.
Councilwoman Dean?
Aye.
Councilman Brown?
Aye.
Councilman Dean?
Aye.
Mayor Mays?
Aye.
President Smith?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you very much. Public hearings for tonight have been postponed, and the rescheduled date will be announced later. Our next item is new business ordinance 2020-07, an emergency, amending ordinance 2020-04 to provide appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures for the city of Xenia for fiscal year ending December 31st, 2020, and declare an emergency. Mr. Finance Director.
Thank you, Council President. This is a bit of a housekeeping item. The city issued debt, capital lease back in 2004 for the upgrade of water meters. I think we have another year left of payment on that debt service. I think 2021 is the last year. As a part of that capital lease, there was a provision that protected basically the yield on investment, and it was tied to the corporate tax rate. The corporate tax rate was reduced in 2017, and as a result, there's a gross up that has to occur in order for us to make sure that the yield on that investment, the benefit of that tax exempt loan to the city remains the same. And so unfortunately, it got missed as a part of the appropriations originally brought to council. And so we're requesting tonight an emergency ordinance so that we can facilitate that gross up payment.
Thank you very much. We have a motion to accept the ordinance as an emergency.
So moved.
Have a motion to accept by Councilman Dean. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by the mayor. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call please.
Councilman Scrivens?
Aye.
Councilwoman Dean?
Aye.
Councilman Brown?
Aye.
Councilman Dean?
Aye.
Mayor Mays?
Aye.
President Smith?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you very much. Our next item is also an administrative motion approving the schedule of bills in the amount of $381,199 Mr. Finance Director.
I have nothing specifically to reference related to bills this evening.
Thank you very much. We have a motion to pay the bills tonight.
Motion to pay the bills.
Thank you. I have a motion on the floor by Councilman Scrivens. Do we have a second? I'll second. Any discussion or comments? Seeing none, roll call please.
Councilman Scrivens?
Aye.
Councilwoman Dean?
Aye.
Councilman Brand?
Aye.
Councilman Dean? Aye. Mayor Mays?
Aye.
President Smith?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you very much. Our next item is highlighted. It's also administrative motion authorizing the city manager to execute service quote SRE 49844 with Buckeye Power Sales Company Incorporated for an emergency repair of the Ford Road wastewater treatment plant generator. Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, sir. The emergency electric generator at the Ford Road wastewater treatment plant is a little over 30 years old, and given such, we perform regular maintenance and testing on that particular piece of equipment. During recent annual testing and maintenance, we encountered a critical system failure. So I guess on the one hand, it's a positive we do these testing cycles for this purpose, but we did have a critical failure with the unit. The problem is a pretty significant failure, and it's left the generator at this time inoperable. Public Service Department has lined up a standby generator, which we have on site at the facility presently. The expense for that is about $3,200 a week, a little over $3,200 a week. Bear in mind, this is a generator that's on the back of a flatbed, so this is a large industrial-sized generator. We've had the generator evaluated, and contractors feel that it can be repaired and have sustainable life for a few years, which we think is the best course of action at this particular time. The situation is urgent because the plant is vulnerable to be inundated in significant water events without the pumping capacity that we have at the plant. So, it's essential that we have the ability, if the power goes out, to continue pumping. In addition, our licensure is contingent upon having these backup operations that are available with the plant. For those reasons and the fact that we're spending $3,200 a week right now to have a backup on site, we thought it imperative to line up the repair work as quickly as possible. Excuse me. Though exceeding the amount that I can authorize on a normal basis today, I did go ahead and have the contract move forward under emergency powers that are granted in the charter in section 9.16C. This is one of those critical incidents where, excuse me, this piece of equipment needs to move forward, and we need to expedite the repair as quickly as possible. So this evening, what we're asking you to do is basically retroactively authorize this expenditure in concurrence with what we've allowed to move forward on an emergent basis. I don't have an exact timeline on how long it will take. It's a reconditioning of the actual motor itself on the generator, and we are hopeful that we can continue to have that backup generator on site until the repair is made. But again, noting that we are not necessarily first priority for the generator. It could be recalled through the business for another purpose. We wanted to get this as quickly as possible and allow them to get started as quickly as possible. So again, this evening, we're asking for council to approve the service quote for Buckeye Power Sales, the amount of $55,000. I think it's, I have it in front of me. Thank you very much this evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. City Manager. Do we have a motion to approve the emergency repair?
So moved.
So moved by the mayor. Do we have a second, please?
Second.
Second by Councilman Scrivens. Any discussion, questions, or comments regarding this motion?
Mr. President.
Yes, sir.
Mr. City Manager, how long do we anticipate using the $3,000 a week generator?
We've had it, this will be the second week we've had it on site. So once we had the testing and the failure occurred, we had to bring contractors out to evaluate it and then to line up the quotes. We went through our normal quoting process and tried to solicit 3 quotes quickly. We only got 1 response back. So again, we're trying to expedite the work. So we've had it for 2 weeks. I think we're probably going to have it for at least 2 more weeks, assuming that it would not be recalled for any other reason.
You know we're going to have significant rain events. This is April.
We have significant rain event this evening into tomorrow. Not as much as last week, but and as I reported to council, we last week was one of those cases where had we not bypassed the plants, it would have inundated the plants because we were at max capacity for about 2 straight days. We were pumping about 12 million gallons a day out there. So
Now, did we actually release raw sewage?
Well, depends on how you look at it. We did have a bypass at one plant, which is, of course, as we have to report that
To the EPA?
Yeah, but we had reached such high water levels that we had no choice but to water line.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. President.
All right, any other discussion?
Real quick, I noticed in the comments, I went through this the other night, there's a lot of words like extra. Do we know what any of those extra costs could potentially amount to and like further expenses that we're gonna have to pay?
Relative to this project or?
Yes, because it says that, like, reusable other than parts listed will be extra. You know,
Yeah.
once they break it open and they find more issues that potentially could be wrong.
Yeah, I think, what we can do up to 10% of change order, so we would have the ability to find, the money's there, there's appropriation of funds. So if we have additional expenditures within that 10% range, we can have that covered automatically. If we get to a point, once they get the whole thing opened up and it's gonna be more, then there's potential we could have to bring something back to council.
Thank you very much. These would be city fund funds.
Sewer, yeah, this is all sewer fund, yeah. I think it's worth mentioning also, some may ask, well, you're spending $55,000 to repair this, why not put a new one in? You folks in our public need to understand the scope and scale of this. This is a large size generator. We have a lot of electric use at the wastewater treatment plant. So for a full-scale replacement, that has to be designed and engineered. There's approvals that have to be gotten through EPA, through EPA. Then you have to go through the process of bidding that, whether it's on state bid or if you have to go through a formal bid process and awarding that bid. The installation of that, testing, final approval from EPA, just the lead time, because these are not products that are on the shelf somewhere. When you order it, they start fabricated. So we estimate it's probably about a year from the point that we would initiate the process to the point that it would be installed. So obviously, this repair can buy us a few years, but I think we're at a point, if we extend the life a couple more years, we'll be at 35 years in this piece of equipment. So we will start factoring into our 5-year CIP a replacement for this particular piece of equipment.
Thank you very much. Any other comments? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Councilman Scrivens?
Aye.
Councilwoman Dean?
Aye.
Councilman Brand?
Aye.
Councilman Dean?
Aye.
Mayor May?
Aye.
President Smith?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you very much. Next on our agenda is reports from officials, appointed officials, and council comments. We're going to go first with the city manager. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. It felt appropriate this evening to provide at least a brief update on our response to the COVID-19 for the benefit of the council as well as our viewing public. So some of this may be a little bit redundant to the council with some of the communications that I've sent, but again, for the benefit of the public, I thought it would be important to run through some of the key things that are going on. A lot of conversation that's occurred locally and across the state with respect to the orders that have been issued under the governor's authority by the director of the Ohio Department of Health. The most significant one is the most recent, the stay-at-home order. It does not behoove us this evening to get into the particulars of that. There's been encouragement locally and certainly at the state level for individuals to access that documentation online, read it, become familiar with it, and then apply some interpretation to that. What I can say and have said publicly is that locally, obviously, we are encouraged, we would encourage voluntary compliance with this. To the extent that there are egregious violations of this, it is something that is citable. And it's important to note that it's not just local law enforcement, but the local Department of Health, the Greene County Combined Health District, does have enforcement capabilities with this as well. So this order, in conjunction with prior orders, has shut down all schools, has put heavy restrictions on daycare centers, adult daytime care facilities, MRDD, type of assistance and training facilities, a whole host of restrictions on what types of businesses can continue to operate, and if they are continuing to operate, they have to apply some of the social distancing and PPE and some of those sorts of things. So it's a pretty extensive order. We understand there's still a lot of confusion in the public as to what is authorized to continue to be open and what not, or what cannot. So we would refer folks back to that. If you go to odh.ohio.gov, you can find links to all of the materials that the state of Ohio and the Ohio Department of Health are producing. So we encourage folks to go there to access the order and read that. Within that order, that also places some limitations on the city of Xenia. We have then had to respond, as I think the public is aware, to put restrictions on accessibility to our public facilities. Obviously, our city administration buildings, as well as the Justice Center, are closed to the public at this time. This also extends to some of our facilities at parks, playground equipment, and amenities, for example, are at this point under the state's order are restricted from use. So again, will we have someone standing out at the playground equipment giving out tickets? No, but we're asking folks to voluntarily comply with this, offer some discretion, sort of within yourself to make sure that you're doing what's necessary to keep folks safe. From a local perspective, our non-safety staff are on a modified work schedule. What we try to do is create a schedule and a structure where we are limiting the number of people in the building at a particular time and platooning them in such a way that if we do have an outbreak, say among a group of staff on a particular shift, that it's not affecting our ability to provide service comprehensively. So this is restricting the number of days that staff is working. It's the best we can do to maintain the functions of the city, trying to be good stewards of taxpayer dollars, but also being compliant with what the state's orders are. Public safety services and other essential services are operating uninterrupted. We want to make very clear to the public that as we're making adjustments to services, if you need emergency help, it will be there as soon as we can get it there. That has not changed and will continue to not change. However, having said that, there are some modifications that we've made to the delivery of safety services for issues that are not emergent. So if you call the dispatch center and you request assistance, that you want to file a complaint or report for a theft, for example, that may typically would send an officer out and they would take that report in person. Under some of the modifications to our services, right now we may have an officer call you back and take that report over the phone. So there are some modifications to services like that we've made. Again, as you call into the dispatch center, they'll let you know the proper procedure and how your service issue will be handled. And speaking of calling our dispatch center, we also want to encourage folks, do not call 911 unless you have an emergency. If you have a question about the governor's orders, we encourage you to go online and try to answer that for yourself. But more specifically, if you have a question about a lot of these COVID-19 issues, we encourage you to contact the Green County Combined Health District. They're the local experts when it comes to this pandemic issue and the enforcement of those orders. So we encourage you to go to that resource rather than call our dispatch center. Some additional information, services like mowing, code enforcement, certainly a lot of the city-sponsored events are being impacted by this current situation. And so we are putting together a plan for how some of these things will be implemented within the operating restrictions we have. But clearly there are some immediate impacts that folks will see with some of these things, particularly the special events. Obviously, a lot of our special events that were scheduled even for April have already been canceled. Okay. Some other information, the projected peak of the virus based on the state's experts is late April, early May, around the first week of May based on the numbers that are out there today. The reason I bring that up is that I think for our staff purposes, for council's thinking, and for the public, you need to be expecting that a lot of these restrictions are going to be in place for the next 4 to 6 weeks, and I think probably an extended period of time after that. Even in his press conference today, the governor indicated that at this juncture, based on the information that he's getting, he does not see wavering from this set of restrictions. That he feels that we need to get through what is estimated to be the peak to minimize the influx that our healthcare system would have. So I think folks need to get accustomed to this change as it is likely to be applicable for at least the next few weeks, if not a couple of months. Now, I know many of us have grave concerns about that, and I will be honest with you, from an economic standpoint, an operational and financial standpoint here in the city, I have very, very serious concerns about this. There are a lot of issues that are created with the situation, and I understand the difficulty in balancing public health with the economics of things, but we've already begun thinking longer term and with regard to how this affects our community, our finances, and what steps we need to take. But the full extent of that will not be known until we understand the full term of this lockdown, for lack of a better term. So I think for council purposes, know that we're thinking in that timeline, which means restrictions on our meetings for the next month or two, similar to what we've done tonight, we'll probably have to continue doing. We've also canceled all the immediately forthcoming board and commission meetings. There are some items that may need to move forward in the interest of business for the community through planning and zoning. So we'll probably have to have at least planning and zoning under similar circumstances as council's meeting tonight. So look for that meeting probably coming up in April that we'll need to follow up on. We are in regular contact with the Greene County Combined Health District, Kettering Health Network, Greene County Emergency Management Agency. When I say constant, I mean almost daily communication on issues. Very good dialogue that's occurring among these different partners. I'm also in regular communication with my fellow city managers from around Greene County. The approach that we're taking to enforcement and operational modifications, we're trying to be consistent. Of course, we're also talking about opportunities for mutual aid if it comes to that, and just bouncing ideas off of one another. So there, if nothing else, this had really, I think, engendered a really collaborative spirit among a lot of your local institutions as we figure out how we're going to address these issues. We do have emergency contingency staffing plans for public safety, as well as our essential services related to utilities. So we've begun to implement those. If we see some major interruptions to our staff capacity, we will have to think on the fly. We only have so many paramedics. We only have so many licensed folks that can work in a wastewater treatment plant. So we're trying to approach this from the perspective that those services have to be continued, and we'll try to adjust the staffing to provide the best service we can in those areas. We will continue to provide regular updates via social media and all of our outreach mediums. We want to be transparent, we want to be timely with information, letting the public know what's going on locally and providing some information that we're getting from the state. And we are participating lots of conference calls, lots of meetings virtually. I had a meeting yesterday with 600 other local leaders from around the country with the White House and heard a lot of information on business assistance and so forth. Miami Valley Communications Council, Dayton Development Coalition, a whole range of service partners that are providing assistance. And that brings me to my last point, which is we're trying to put as much information out there to help businesses, to help members of the community to understand how to cope with these circumstances. So if you go to the city's website from our portal's homepage, there's a link to a COVID-19 local response page where we have all kinds of resources. Real proud of our staff. They've already begun to put information out there to help our local businesses as much as possible. There are lots of assistance measures being offered through the state of Ohio as well as the federal government. And we're trying to link up those resources to the needs that might be emerging in our community among our local businesses. So that's something that is continuing to evolve. We're trying to link those up. So I could go on here for another hour, but I think those are the highlights. I want to keep you informed and keep the public informed. And so if you have any questions, I'm sure to answer them. If not, that's all I have to see.
Thank you very much. We have one quick question. At the parks, do we have signage discouraging people from using the equipment?
We have posted, that's a great question. We have posted signage at all of our city park playgrounds. Playgrounds were specifically listed in the health director's orders. So we posted them there. Now, there are other amenities, for example, basketball courts, that were not specifically listed, and we have not posted signage there. That particular issue came up today in the governor's comments, and I think it's really pursuing, it's the perspective of the local health department as to whether or not that is included as part of what should be restricted for access. We've gotten no specific instructions from Greene County Combined Health District. Reached out to the director and we'll try to link to her tomorrow, have some conversation on it. But the playground equipment was specifically listed. Other amenities like basketball, I mean, my personal feeling is I don't want to restrict all the use for basketball courts, just because there might be an occasion where 10 people gather there. Some of the things like frisbee golf, our frisbee golf course is widely used. But that's an activity that I think can be conducted in a way that provides for physical distancing. So we don't want to outright close all of these public amenities because people need to breathe, they need to exercise, they need to socialize a little bit. So we're trying to balance the governor's orders with some practical application.
Thank you very much.
It's a lot more than you asked for, I know.
Any comments, person?
I'd just like to thank the city manager on instituting contingency planning. When you get knocked down, we got to get up and keep fighting. And I have to compliment the staff and the management on how well we've kept the lid on the city. You just can't plan for everything. And the way we've pared down our essential services, and the only question I really have is how do citizens pay their water bill if they're usually coming in person? So how are we gonna handle that? We don't have a lockbox or a drop box outside. Mr. Finance Director?
Yeah, so we actually do have a drop box outside.
Oh, we
It's
do?
just, yeah, it's just, if you drive through the lot, it's on the left side, it's not connected to the building.
Oh.
There's a drop box there. We also accept payments, online, credit card, ACH payments, and you can mail it, obviously, through the post office. So, you can also pay over the phone, so there are a whole variety of options.
Very good.
Probably forgetting a few, but.
Thank you, Mr. Thank you very much. All right, next, Finance Director.
Yeah.
Okay.
So one of the questions that we're getting a lot is about the tax filing deadline. The state legislature did pass a bill to delay the tax deadline to July 15th near the federal deadline. I don't think the governor has actually signed that into law, but I'm quite confident that the state is going to change that tax filing deadline to July 15th. By default, we follow the state deadline, so the city tax filing deadline will follow the Fed and the state as well automatically. There's really nothing that council would need to do in order to facilitate that. So I'm very confident our tax deadline is going to end up being July 15th, unless they delay it again, which is certainly possible. But currently, July 15th is going to be the new filing deadline. We are still working through how we can aid taxpayers in preparation of those returns, the signature on the return being kind of that core hurdle. But we are going to figure out a way that we can continue to provide that assistance to the taxpayers. Our tax and utility department is open Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays during normal business hours. So you can still give us a call. You can still email us. We're still here to serve you. We just won't do it face-to-face in person. So on Wednesdays, if there's an emergency, there are people around who can help to aid citizens as well. But generally, the core office hours for utilities and tax are Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, 8 to 5. And we're working through some of the changes in how we can continue to provide better service to the public. But there are a variety of ways you can still file your taxes, put it in the Dropbox, your mail. Again, you can actually email it. Secure email is available to the public. And we'll figure out some other options and some clarification on how we can assist taxpayers in preparing those returns. But there is a delay in that deadline. So.
Thank you very much. If we're still connected, anything from our law director?
Good evening. Just real quickly, as Brennan Jared said, that emergency legislation was passed by the state. Spent the last week, the Ohio Municipal Attorneys Association and Ohio Municipal League were very involved in the language of that. There were a few changes made, so I was able to get my hands on the bill. I am reading through that. I'm preparing a summary for staff that I will share with all of you as well regarding what those changes are. We continue to work with the court. The court has pushed most everything that could be pushed till May 8th. We're running under a very limited capacity, making sure that as far as arraignments and constitutional rights that we are abiding by those while trying to maintain the safety of staff. We'll soldier on. It's been interesting. I've worked from home this week, and actually I think this week has been busier than being in the office. So I hope you all are well and taking care of yourselves.
All right, thank you very much. Appreciate the job you're doing. Next is our mayor.
Thank you. Don't have a lot to report on. It's been pretty quiet, but wanted to go with Council Chairman. So thank you to our city leadership. You guys have done a phenomenal job. I actually was telling somebody I haven't really felt like I had to watch the news much because you guys have kept us you've had such good communication with us as council and giving us reports and summaries. I just want to say thank you. I know this has taken a toll on your time and energy, mental energy, so thank you very much. And thank you, of course, to the rest of the city staff. That just seems like such a small word right now. The website looks great. I know I have visited and looked up things, so I'm very pleased with that. I've referred people to it. It's been a good week for, I've had the opportunity to reach out to both of our superintendents in the area, as well as the leadership at Peer Memorial and Again, this is not something that we want, but as far as relationship building, it's been a great opportunity to have some really good and meaningful conversations. So I'm very thankful for that. And I know I've said it online, I just want to say it again, when you're out taking a walk, just continue to be friendly. It's been, as a family, very encouraging to see people out, to wave from a distance, and to, there is a warmth amongst a lot of people right now to just try to be friendly, a spirit of generosity, and I'm very appreciative of that in our community, and I hope that people continue to do that as you are out walking around and seeing people and saying hello. So, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Councilwoman Neal.
Just what everybody else said, you guys have been doing a really great job. Thank you all, everybody, staff, your staff. Everybody stay safe, stay home, of course you can. That's about it.
Thank you very much. Councilman Scrivens.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a few things. Mary had sent us a email last week asking for suggestions on some language. I do have a couple suggestions on each one, so I'll pass those on to you. I have them written down on the back of the envelope, of course, and I left it on my desk before I left home. Next thing, the stay-at-home order that the State Director of Public Health issued, it wasn't just a one-page order. It was 12 pages. And just thank the law director for, wading through it and trying to make some sense out of it that management could understand. So just want to thank her for that. Between her and the Ohio Municipal League and the National League of Cities, I'm inundated. So this virus can hurry up and quell itself as far as I'm concerned. As I said, I'm thankful that the city is very good at adjusting how we operate on the fly. It takes a pretty good mind to do that when you don't have things stable, and I compliment you guys on that. So, only thing I've been really worried about is GMH, the ER, the OR, and the ICU. I need to really get an update on that because I don't see us really.
Yeah, I can speak to that if you like briefly.
Please.
Fire Chief and I participated in a conference call with some of the leadership from GMH Showing 2 days ago, and essentially what we've been told, the entire Kettering Health Network is taking a network-wide approach to ramping up for what they believe will be an influx of patients in the coming weeks. As part of that, they have made some operational decisions. So we were informed that the ER continues to operate normally. In fact, the staff has told us that their total numbers are actually down a little bit over the past week. So the ER is open and functioning as normal. The OR at GMH has been shuttered for the time being. This is not just something that's happening at Green Memorial, but at multiple of the more regional sites that Kettering operates. They are closing down those local ERs and consolidating, ORs, operating rooms, not emergency rooms. They're consolidating those ORs at the larger facilities, Kettering Hospital, so on and so forth. And the reason for that, to be very clear, is really two things. One is because of the limited number of staff, and two, and probably even more so, the second one is the lack of personal protective equipment. The network feels that they can operate much more efficiently with respect to staff and conservation of PPE if they're operating out of fewer facilities. So we were told that that particular OR shuttering is intended to be temporary in nature until we can get through this period of the coronavirus. As it relates to the ICU, the Green ICU is not open at this time. However, it is completely constituted. They've got the materials and supplies and equipment there. They're ready to open that up when the demand reaches that point. So as part of Kettering's contingency plan, they're considering the availability of that ICU as well as the third floor at the hospital to be potentially transitioned for ICU patients if that need arises.
And just finally, Mr. President, when I was in graduate school, I took a course in health economics and the politics of public health. And today is right out of the book, believe me, it's right out of the book. So I just wanted to compliment everybody. And just remember, this too shall pass. And there's no sense in losing our short hair about it. this too shall pass. Do what the governor's asked us to do, and do what we know to do. And that's all it's going to be. And pretty soon, we may have a bimodal curve, I'm sure of that. But right now, Lord's got his hedge around us here in Xenia. And my prayers have been answered so far, so I'm just so happy. And with that, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Councilman Scrivens. Councilman Brandon.
I just want to say thank you to city staff and everybody. Remember that hope is greater than fear.
There you go.
And Councilman Dean.
Well, I think everybody else has said just about all there is to say, so.
All right. Thank you very much. Just a reminder for those that are watching, and correct me if I'm wrong, Xenia Community Schools has announced that effective now, any child age 1 through 18 can pick up a lunch at the schools. And those 4 elementary schools are Arrowwood, Cox, McKinley, and Shawnee, not Tecumseh. So those 4, is that correct?
I believe so.
Okay. And I believe from 10 a.m. to 11, it's a packed lunch, it is breakfast and lunch. So, I know this is a crisis, this is unprecedented. Stay calm. If you're hungry, there's resources out there. So it's just really sad because, the class of 2020 is still in limbo on proms and graduations and dance recitals and even baseball leagues. So, again, if you could stay home, do that, take the precautions if you have to go outside. Remember the social distancing, washing your hands, work from home if you can. And I want to remind the public that the city has canceled the egg hunt. I just got a letter today from a potential sponsor. We'll bring that back next year, and that'll be bigger and better than ever. So again, it's sad because that's just a really fun event that we really look forward to doing. But again, we'll have that next year. So I'd like to thank the citizens for watching tonight under these circumstances. Again, thank you for your prayers for the community. I do have one thing for Councilman Scrivens.
Yes, sir. I just forgot. We lost one of the paragons here in the Xenia community here this last week or so, Rock McCullough. And want to express our deepest heartfelt sympathy. And our hearts are all broken. We can't wait to say a formal goodbye. And a former Xenia longtime employee, Mr. Paul Goltice, I saw him at the funeral home, and he was there because of his mother. So we want to have prayer for the Goltice family.
Thank you very much. Thank you for reminding me on that loss. But with that being said, again, thank you for watching tonight. Thank you for your prayers. And as Councilman Scrivens said, this shall pass and we'll get through it. Thank you and have a good night.
Motion to adjourn.
Oh, motion to adjourn. Thank you very much. Do we have a motion by Councilman, or I'm sorry, by Mayor Mays?
Absolutely.
And do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Councilman Dean. Thank you for point of order. Any comments, questions? Okay, roll call, please.
Councilman Scrivens?
Aye.
Councilwoman Dean?
Aye.
Councilman Brandon?
Aye.
Councilman Dean?
Aye.
Mayor Mays?
Aye.
President Smith?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you very much. Good night.
All right, Xenia.